Good evening. This is the January 5th, 2022 Seminole County Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. My name is Carissa Lahan, chairman for tonight's meeting. Everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This board is a 7-member board appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. A quorum has been established to hold tonight's meeting. Public hearing items acted upon by this board are referred to the Board of County Commissioners for further consideration. Board members present tonight include Vice Chairman Stephen Smith, Commissioner Richard German, Commissioner Tim Smith, Commissioner Dan Lopez, and Commissioner Bob Turnage. Staff present tonight are Mary Moskowitz, Planning and Development Manager, Paul Chivak, is he?
Should be here.
Deputy County Attorney, Terry McHugh, Environmental Services Director, Bill White, Professional Engineer, Development Review, Doug Robinson, Principal Planner, Kathy Hamill, Principal Planner, Hillary Payton, Planner, Tyler Reed, Planner, Tammy Brushwood, Clerk to the P&Z Board. Tonight's meeting will go as follows. Staff will introduce each item. The applicant will then present the item. Audience members wishing to speak on the item will next be heard. Please make sure that you complete a comment card and give it to the clerk. Comment cards are located in the lobby. Audience speakers should restrict their comments to information directly related to the item being heard. Audience speakers will have 3 minutes to speak or 6 minutes if representing an official group. When called, speakers should approach the microphone, provide their name and address for the record. If you're participating by Zoom, please make sure you're ready and unmuted when called upon. Mary, we have Zoom tonight?
No, I'm sorry, that should have been taken out. There's no Zoom.
Okay. The board may ask questions of the speakers. After all speakers have been heard, public comment will be closed. The applicant will be given a chance for rebuttal. Any items shown, such as videos, presentations, pictures, or maps, must be left with the clerk for the public record. Items shown from electronic devices should be emailed to the clerk. A motion will be made and then seconded. Board discussion may occur and conclude with a vote. I will request a roll call vote for any split votes. The first item on the agenda is approval of proof of publication. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and that motion passes. Next, we'll move to approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and the minutes are approved. Moving on to our public hearing items. Item number 1, Little Wekiva Brewery Special Exception. Kathy Hamill presenting.
Thank you. Kathy Hamill, Development Services. This is a request for a special exception that used to be under the purview of the Board of Adjustment. The Board of County Commissioners last year amended the Land Development Code to change the review process for the Planning and Zoning Board to be the recommending body and the Board of County Commissioners to be the final approval. The special exception being considered for your recommendation tonight is an alcoholic beverage establishment. And how we define an alcoholic beverage establishment is the code is that the primary use is the sale for on-premise consumption or off-premise. So that means that the primary use is alcohol, such as a restaurant, the primary use is food, and the secondary use is the consumption of alcohol on-premise. The applicant is proposing to operate a small-scale nano brewery in the Springs Plaza, in which a sale will be the primary use. A nano brewery produces a couple of barrels a week for on-premise consumption, and which will operate as a tap room. So they're serving the beer that they are brewing on site. The on-premise consumption of alcohol is not inconsistent with the current and past approvals of the Springs Plaza. The Springs Plaza was constructed in 1979. There have been several special exceptions for the consumption of alcohol and also for the off-premise. It started in 1984 was the first one. It was for a restaurant, and there's a distance requirement from churches and schools, and they had to require to get a special exception. So This type of special exception historically has been consistent with the C1 uses that are in the Springs Plaza and the commercial land use. The space and occupancy, they're leasing a 1,200 square foot space with a maximum of 30 customers. This is also consistent with the commercial uses in this plaza and the intensity of the use. A community meeting was conducted on December 19th, and no one from the public was in attendance to that meeting. Staff is recommending the Board of County Commissioners approve the special exception and associated development order in your package for an alcohol beverage establishment in the C1 zoning classification for the 7.63 acres located on the southwest side of Winter Springs Road and Wekiva, State Road 434 and Wekiva Springs Road. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions that you may have, and also the applicant is here, Chris Connor, if you have any questions.
So questions of staff?
Yeah, there's already, 3 alcohol establishments? I know they serve food, but there's already like 3 or 4 establishments in there, correct?
And there is, and there has been since 1984 ones that have come and gone. But
Okay.
currently, yes, it is a typical use in this plaza.
Thank you.
Ed?
You mentioned that an invitation went out to the residents in the area. How about the business owners within the plaza? Were they included in the invitation?
It's part of, ours is from the property line, so no, the business owners are not. The landlord, of course, is notified with others.
All the property owners are notified.
The owners themselves, but not necessarily...
the businesses,
Not
yeah.
the tenants or businesses?
Right.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Would the applicant like to make a presentation?
We concur with Kathy.
Okay, are there any members of the audience that would like to speak in favor or against this item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Board discussion, motion.
No samples?
I'm sorry?
You didn't bring a cake with you tonight, huh? So that's bad, right? I'm going to make a motion, recommend the Board of County Commissioners approve the special exception and associated development order for an alcoholic beverage establishment in the C1 zoning district on 7.63 acres, located on the southeast side of Wekiva Springs Road and Wekiva Springs Lane.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item number 2, Water Supply Facilities Comprehensive Plan Amendment, presented by Tyler Reed and Terry McHugh.
Good evening. Tyler Reed, planner in the Planning and Development Department. This is a request to approve the Water Facilities Comprehensive Plan Amendment, transmittal of proposed amendments to the text of the potable water conservation and capital improvement elements of the Seminole County Comprehensive Plan. To implement the 2022 Water Supply Facilities Work Plan located countywide. The Seminole County is one of 5 counties within the Central Florida Water Initiative area. The Central Florida Water Initiative Regional Water Supply Plan was adopted by the St. John's Water Management Governing Board in November of 2020. The Regional Water Supply Plan has identified that traditional water sources, that is fresh groundwater, are insufficient to meet growing demands of the area. Chapter 163, Part 2 of the Florida Statutes requires local governments to identify water supply sources to meet growing needs. The work plan demonstrates existing potable water supplies are adequate through 2029, and future regulations may impact supplies beyond 2029. The alternative water supply options are being explored if traditional supplies cannot meet future needs. Seminole County Environmental Services Department uses reclaimed water to the extent possible. Conservation is being implemented and program expansions are being explored. This 10-year water supply facilities work plan is consistent with the Central Florida Water Initiative Regional Water Supply Plan and Florida statutes. Staff recommends approval of the Water Facilities Comprehensive Plan amendments to the text of the potable water conservation and capital improvement elements to implement the 2022 Water Supply Facilities Work Plan as requested. Staff from Environmental Services is also here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Do we have questions? Another presenter?
For the record, Terry McHugh, Director, Environmental Services Department, and I'll keep this away because I hear apparently it's pretty loud today. I prepared a brief 5-slide presentation, but Tyler hit pretty much all the main points too. So at your discretion, we could go straight to questions, or I could flip through these slides quickly for your convenience. You're up to you.
Why don't you show us what you prepared?
Please. So as Tyler indicated, Seminole County is one of 5 counties within the Central Florida Water Initiative area called CFWI. It's 3 different water management districts, St. John's, Southwest, and South Florida, all serve pieces of the area. Every 5 years, the water management districts work together in the CFWI to produce a regional water supply plan. And as Tyler said, the core findings of this regional water supply plan is that our traditional aquifer, groundwater, is insufficient to meet long-term supply. So every 5 years, they do an update. The last update was November of 2020, which triggers an 18-month clock for all utilities and municipalities to consider the results of the regional water supply plan, develop a capital plan, what we'll call a 10-year water supply facility works plan, and make relevant comprehensive plan changes to incorporate the results. So what it must contain. So it has to contain your current and projected needs. You have to consider both traditional and alternate water supply sources to meet those needs. What CIP type projects needs to deliver to meet the demand. What are you doing in water conservation to be efficient in water use? And to demonstrate that you're using reuse supplies to the maximum extent possible. So the implications of this regional water supply plan for Seminole County Environmental Services Department, and for the record, I'll note that we're the largest utility in the county, but we serve about a quarter of the county in all. So this just is mainly in the unincorporated areas. So our current consumptive use permits, which governs the amount of groundwater we have, is sufficient through 2040, which is good news. However, from the regional water supply plan, it's also noted that if everyone's permits were honored, the aquifer can't support that amount. So I would expect over coming years for these permitted allocations to decline. So as such, we need to prepare different types of projects to meet this future. Next slide. So as Tyler said, this water supply facility works plan and the corresponding adjustments to our comprehensive plan, it is consistent with both the regional water supply plan and Florida statutes. So we're revising the potable water element of the comp plan, the conservation element, and the capital improvements element. Before I entertain questions, I'll have one thing to bring to your attention. After we submitted this to you, my staff noticed a minor error, and as did a citizen that emailed the planning group on Monday. And that error was, it made reference to our level of service standards. So level of service is how much water and wastewater a typical ERC or equivalent residential connection uses. For many years in this county, it's been 350 gallons per day per house, 300 gallons per day for wastewater. When we went through our impact fees, connection fees last year, those numbers were dropped. An ERC is now 250 gallons per day for water, 215 for wastewater. That hasn't caught up in our comprehensive plan or in an ordinance. So our legal staff has already made that change, and I'll incorporate that when it goes to the board before it gets transmitted to the state. So with that, I'm here for questions.
Questions of staff?
I've got a question. So this plan goes out 10 years.
Yes.
What are your plans when we run out of groundwater? And are we is the county making provisions for when we run out, or are we going to wait till we run out to?
Oh, okay, good question. And no, we're not waiting until until the check is due and then start writing a check. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
So it's a complicated problem. And conservation and reuse are key parts of it. And that's a big success story. In our highest water use area, the Northwest Service Area, 20 years ago, per capita consumption, this per person, was over 300 gallons of water per person per day. That number is less than half of that now. And our other service areas are much less than that. So that's really good, and it's achieved through expansion of reuse, particularly in that area, which is really important. Conservation. And conservation, from my perspective, is mainly driven by behaviors of citizens that respond to price signals or wanting to do the right thing. It's worked. But so that's the front end. The back end is the county in 2012 built the Yankee Lake Surface Water Treatment Facility, which could serve as a long-term drinking water source. But it's very expensive. I wouldn't want to use water from a surface water to create drinking water. That's the last resort. So the intention is to maximize conservation, reuse, and explore other options like aquifer storage recovery. So that is putting reclaimed water into the aquifer, then pulling it back out and using it. So we have, on wet weather days, we can't use it all and have to dispose of some to going into the aquifer, and this will be an opportunity to pull some back. We'll also explore test wells for recharging the aquifer directly, taking treated surface water and injecting it near key environmental areas, such as Sylvan Lake, for example, which is near Yankee Lake, and use that to offset impacts from groundwater withdrawals. So conceptually, it can work. Next step is to drill test wells to confirm that it can work. So the object is to, writ simply, it's to keep costs as low as possible, as long as possible. And I'm thinking not just for my utilities, for the region as a whole.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
So this involves Seminole County basically as a utility serving citizens of Seminole County with water.
Yes.
Does not involve all the other independent utilities, which
It does not, which is a good point. But the Regional Water Supply Plan is a 5-county-wide initiative.
Okay.
And ultimately, Yankee Lake will likely be a regional resource with other partners cost-sharing to develop projects.
So how say we do an excellent job conserving water, providing water, clean water to the citizens. These other utilities that were established, 40, 50 years ago, have not replaced their pipes. They have leaking pipes. They're not doing a good job of they're getting water to the house, but they're probably wasting 50% of water by the time it gets in there. So we're doing a good job, but they aren't. So we're still...
I would say utilities for water supply, we all have consumptive use permits. And one of the requirements in those consumptive use permits is to conduct water audits to demonstrate that you're not losing drinking water to that extent. And I think the standard now for St. John's is 10% leakage. And if you do more than 10%, you need to do a more detailed analysis, more calibration of your meters, and then invest in a capital program to identify these leaks and fix the problem.
Because there was a lot of complaints when Utilities, Inc. started buying local utilities. First thing they did was double and triple the water rates. But then the people, I'm president of Markham Woods Association, they kept calling me going, why is my rate tripling now and I still have almost no water coming out of the faucet? So there's nothing we can do with those other utilities.
The county, and myself as Environmental Services Director, my sphere is within my utility. So directly with Utilities, Inc., no, I can't.
Okay.
But I will say, though, the Regional Water Supply Plan is a regional effort. And not to sidetrack a little bit, but one of the county's key strategic priorities is to develop a holistic water policy for the entire county. Okay. And I'll be one of the leaders in that. It'll be going before the board, knock on wood, to engage a consultant the second January meeting, so January 25. It'll be a year-long process, which I'll be looking to engage the entire community, as many stakeholders as I can, to talk about. It's wrapped around the concept of one water. all water is valuable. How do we maximize its use, be efficient, be cost-effective?
Okay, so that'll be a true regional plan.
That is what our board wants to see, and that's my job to deliver.
So,
But at the same time, that Oviedo, Winter Springs, all the municipalities that supply water also have to go through the same process you're going through.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all on the same clock. So for us, since we're governed by the St. Johns River Water Management District, that triggered an 18-month clock to have these changes done. And that clock expires in May.
so what's your plans for private wells? Is there any plans?
For me, personally, I haven't given a lot of thought to private wells, because
Okay.
as a utility director, that's not really within my jurisdiction.
Okay.
But that is a rock that I'll flip over as part of this holistic water policy with that concept. So I don't know a whole lot about that now, but I'm sure that's one of the topics.
Oh, I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a water management issue, water management district.
Yes, it is.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions of staff?
I have one. If I understood correctly, you said that the average water usage per household dropped by as much as over 100 gallons? Was,
Yeah.
were you looked, okay. When was the measurements of the 350-ish to the more recent one? How much time period has passed?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. So when it was recalculated just very
Yeah,
recently?
right, yes.
Right, so when was it initially, the measurement completed?
That's a really good question. I think it's one of those things that was in a book someplace for many years ago, and it's been there.
So we're talking like 70s, 80s?
I would assume 70s.
Wow.
Since
Okay.
we've had the code,
Yeah.
we've had the 350, so.
And
Yeah.
the cornerstone of our analysis was looking at billing data from our customers and right-sizing what those numbers should be.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there any member of the audience who'd like to speak in support of this item?
I've got some paperwork here, unfortunately, I only have about 4 copies of it.
I'll share one with Bob, and maybe we'll send one down.
My name is Joe Humphreys. I live at 883 Cardinal Point Cove, Sanford, Florida. My father told me when I was growing up as a kid that there's a big difference between what you need and what you want. We want a lot of things, but we don't need that many. Obviously, we need to have air. When obviously following air, the next thing we need the most of is water. So I think staff has done a pretty decent job of dealing with what is a significant and growing issue, not only in Florida, but around the country. The information that I just gave you, the first page, there's a great reference document, book that I've given. Actually, I think most of the members of the county commission have a copy of this now. And as it basically says, drying up the fresh water crisis in Florida. And there's a tremendous amount of research there. When I first came to Florida back in the mid-'70s, I spent a couple of years on a 100-acre island in southwest Florida that we were redeveloping. We had well water on the island, and it was very brackish to the point where you couldn't drink it unless you put scotch in it, and a lot of scotch. So we ended up purchasing the first reverse osmosis, privately owned reverse osmosis plant in the state of Florida. And as Terry kind of alluded to earlier, it's expensive. Ask the folks in St. Petersburg. It's an expensive source of water. We want to try to avoid it if we can. So anyway, our friends in Tallahassee, I've had conversations with a number of them, including Senator Broder. We've talked about conservation things. One of the statutes that they talk about in this document today, this is from statute 720. And 4A, it says, "The legislature finds that the use of Florida-friendly landscaping and other water use and pollution prevention measures to conserve or protect the state's water resources serves as a," keyword, "compelling public interest." In other words, it's a legal mandate from the state. We've got to do something to protect our water sources. So, as somebody who was involved in the real estate business, I can tell you for a fact that conservation is selling. This article that I included here was from Builder Magazine from December of 2007. And it has a list of a number of the major developers in the state of Florida that have signed on with the Water Star program that the St. John's Water Management District has been doing, again, going back to the last real estate crisis. They're on board with it. They've been doing it. They've been supportive of it, but this county needs to do more in order to get engaged with that. Same way with Florida Friendly. The state has spent tremendous amount of resources putting this stuff together, and Seminole County is still playing catch-up. As Commissioner Zembauer said, he said, "Yeah," I said, "Joe, I would remember reading these documents when they first came out." Planning and zoning, DRC, the BCC must do a better job when developers come before this board. We need to take everything that Terry and these guys have done, and we need to build upon it. They've done a great job, but we need to do a whole lot more, because even Senator Broder said, "We're not running out of water 10 or 15 or 20 years from now." He said, "We're running out of water now." Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Anyone else in favor of this item? Okay. Any in opposition?
Good evening. My name is Gabrielle Milch, and I am a water conservation coordinator. In my previous lives, I worked for the city of Ocoee. I've worked for the city of Maitland, and I used to be the extension agent here, teaching the Florida Friendly Landscaping Program and trying to get citizens involved. And I have been a Water Star certifier, and I have some grave concerns about our water supply in Central Florida. We have, an abundance of water, but expensive water to treat. And one of my biggest concerns in Seminole County is that while our utility here at Seminole County Utility may do a bang-up job of water conservation, like you say, people with private wells have an impact from the withdrawal of the groundwater, because it's all one groundwater. So saltwater intrusion is in Central Florida. Even, I just heard recently from an extension agent that over in Sanford, that some of the agricultural areas over there are not able to be used as agricultural areas anymore because of saltwater intrusion in their wells. We are very fortunate to have the wonderful Geneva water lens out there, to protect, but that's a fragile, but big underground million-gallon storage area. So, and in the Wekiva area, I've lived for many years, and I live in an HOA, and I have Utilities Inc., which is a private utility, which has done a piss-poor job, of taking care. They had a 1.2 million gallon raw sewage spill into the tributary to the Wekiva River, and they closed the springs, okay? So Utilities Inc. Is a private utility. We have the city of Oviedo, we have Winter Springs, we have all these other. So regionally, as a planning and zoning board, I know you're just looking at this specific program, but we really, as a community, need to look all around and do a holistic water approach. And I love that people, have pride in their yards and grow wonderful grass, but I would rather grow grass than grow food. And so we need to start looking at this component parts with climate change, inland sea level, flooding that's going to occur, and the construction of new homes homes in wetlands. You know, we're taking out some wetlands and putting homes on them, but we're putting 2 feet of fill so that they're above the floodplain. So we've got lots of crazy things going on. Seminole County is doing a great job. This next board meeting, they're potentially going to sign a memorandum of understanding to do some resiliency work for the community. So resiliency and sustainability, smart development, low-impact development, getting HOAs to please stop writing letters and costing people lots of money in our drinking water to grow green grass. I like the aesthetic of having a beautiful green lawn, but if you want that, please go to Disney World, and you can, you know, spend your money there, but don't use my drinking water on growing grass. So I'm here tonight in opposition. I believe that the county is very willing to do things. I was involved in this process in 2017 at their last upgrade, and so there's a lot of shiny things that happen in this planning process with the 5-year water supply plan. I followed the Central Florida Water Initiative since its inception. I worked at the Water Management District as an enforcement and compliance person, so I am not one who likes to be negative, but we need to do something different, and we need to change our behaviors and use less water. Most places around the world don't use 300 gallons a day per person. Most places use like 110 or less. Some places use 90 gallons. So do you know how many water bottles that is? Think about it, and the plastic issues. So thank you, and I hope you have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else opposed to this item? Okay, with that, we'll close public comment. Board discussion? Motion? Questions?
Madam Chair, before you guys take a vote, I just want to point out that as Mr. McHugh noted, there were some typos in that Exhibit A. So tonight's motion, you will be adopting, or if you choose to, you'll be recommending the adoption of an ordinance between the time this gets transmitted to the BCC and your recommendation. We will probably update those typos that were in the exhibit.
So how do we make the motion that will include the
So
corrections?
your motion is to adopt the ordinance. There's an exhibit associated with that. We
Subject to
are administrative, yeah, so, yeah,
Subject to,
Subject to the correction.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll move that we recommend the Board of County Commissioners transmit the proposed ordinance enacting comprehensive plan text amendments to the potable water conservation capital improvement elements to implement the 2022 water supply with corrections.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, seeing none, the item passes. Moving to closing business. Election of a chair and a vice chair. So I'm going to open the floor for nominations for chairman.
Madam Chair, I nominate Commissioner Smith.
Okay, are there any other nominations?
For a second.
Clarification, which Commissioner Smith?
Oh. Sorry. No wonder you're looking at me funny.
Sorry about that. Are you sure it was Tim?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
He's looking at me funny. Okay, are there any other nominations? No? Hearing none, then we'll open for a discussion or a motion. Motion, I guess?
Motion to.
Do we really need a nomination, a motion, and a second with 5 of us?
You just need to vote,
To do, okay.
just like you would any
Okay,
other motion.
all in favor of Commissioner Smith as chairman?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, congratulations.
Commissioner Smith vote for himself?
I don't know.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Well, you're overruled. either.
Okay, at this point then, I will pass the gavel to Chairman
Oh,
Smith
thank you.
to open the floor for nominations for vice chairman.
All right, open the floor for nominations for vice chair. I would like to nominate Bob Turnich. Oh, I can't nominate?
But I can now.
You
So
can.
I will nominate Commissioner Turnage.
Oh, I can't second it either, can I?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Very good,
Thank you.
guys.
Elected chairman of vice.
Okay.
There you go.
I was going to keep going, I'm sorry.
No,
So now you
I-
have to go to the,
Where am I at, closing out here?
yeah, under closing business, the planning manager.
Okay, election chair. Planning managers report.
Yeah, so just, I'll keep this really brief. So I hope you guys all look nice next week, or next month. We plan on having our commission photo. Our photographer was unable to make it this evening, so you guys have a whole month to dolly yourselves up. And then I would be remiss, we got a couple new faces here, so as Kathy so eloquently put it, we're doing some new procedures here with the special exceptions, so you will see some new faces. Hillary Payton back here, she was actually the project manager for that project, so in the future she'll be presenting. And then Tyler Reed is also a new employee. He's a planner in our long-range planning, so you'll be seeing some more of him as well. So
Excellent.
that concludes my report.
Thank you.
I don't recall, when was the last time we had a picture of this board? We didn't have one last year.
I've never had one.
I haven't had one in 4
I've been
years.
on a long time, I don't remember one.
So this was a suggestion and probably a good practice, so, you know, people want to know who's representing.
Well, maybe
so-
it is, maybe it isn't, what are they going to do with it?
That's for me to know. No, we'll probably, we'll post it on our website, and then I'll throw darts at, no, I mean.
What are we going to do if somebody recognizes me?
You always wear a mask.
We have 1 month to dress, we can dress up, yeah, that's right. No costume.
And I'll hand one to each of you as well, so.
A motion to adjourn?
Okay. I'm going to do the gavel for you, one last.
Please, thank you.
One last item, I'd like to congratulate and thank Carissa for...
You've done a fantastic
Thank
job.
you.
Through
Great job.
Great
a
job.
very trying year, had getting ready to have the baby and everything, so you have gone above and beyond.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I'll give this back to Tammy.